When they say, oh, well, tax cuts for everybody. No, in this case, it's not for everybody. It is literally for only the top 10%, and the majority of it goes to the top 0.1%, who on average make $3.75 million a year anyway. And when Paul Ryan's asked about it, he's like, yeah, and who cares? Hey, Tucker, who do you think I work for? All my donors are rich and they're corporations. That's who I serve. I'm just an errand boy. Yeah, that's not the bug in this Republican proposal. That's the feature. That's the whole point of the bill. It's like I'm supposed to care that it's going to create income inequality. I'm a Republican, Tucker Carlson. I love income inequality. The way he brushed that off was awesome. Like, oh, the middle class. What did you think we cared? We're Republicans. Yes, of course it's going to go all to the rich. $600 billion. And by the way, they tell you, if your kids want a free education so they can live the American dream, $75 billion. Oh, no way. Way too expensive. Because I've got to give $600 billion to the rich. If you don't know what the Republicans are all about, he just told you. Okay, I'm moving. Oh, this is one of those sadder stories. I wish I didn't have to do this to Ted Cruz. I really wish I didn't have to do it. He made me do it. What could I do? So now you remember Ted Cruz was one of Donald Trump's main opponents in the primaries in 2016. And he had called Donald Trump things such as pathological liar, narcissist, and utterly amoral. Okay, so that's fun. In fact, JR did a compilation here to give you a sense of how mad Ted Cruz was at Donald Trump at the time. Now, after you see this, I'm going to show you what Ted Cruz is doing with Donald Trump now. Oh no. First, watch this.
I don't get angry often. But you mess with my wife, you mess with my kids, that'll do it every time. Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
So will you support him as the nominee?
I'm going to beat him for the nomination.
That's not answering the question, Senator,
I am
respectfully.
answering the question. Donald Trump will not be the nominee.
He's leading right now. You just looked in that camera and said he is a coward. Will you support him as the nominee?
Donald Trump will not be the nominee. Donald Trump is a gift wrapped in a pink little bow for the Democratic Party. It hands the general election to Hillary Clinton.
It didn't work out that way. It turns out Trump did win the primary and he did win the general election. Now let's look at a gift wrapped up in a pretty little pink bow. Jesus, can you bring up that tweet for me that Ted Cruz just sent out? This is from Ted Cruz. Our family had dinner with President and First Lady who were warm and gracious. Catherine brought Joe her kindergarten class stuffed giraffe. After what he did to your family, this is what you do now, you pretty little pink bow. Oh, you're so sad. So sad. Remember, he said that your father helped assassinate JFK. He called your wife ugly. Now, remember, again, I'm sorry, he made me do it. I didn't send that tweet out, he sent it out. I'm gonna show you another compilation of Ted Cruz back in the day.
Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone. Donald has a real problem with women. People who are insecure. Donald is terrified by strong women. He lashes out at them. Donald Trump is a serial philanderer, and he boasts about it. This is not a secret. He's proud of being a serial philanderer. When Donald gets scared, when he gets angry, when he's threatened, he begins yelling, he begins screaming, he begins often cursing, and he begins trying to be a bully. This man is a pathological liar. He doesn't know the difference between truth and lies. He lies practically every word that comes out of his mouth. He will betray you on every issue across the board. Bragging about infidelity. Now, what does he do? He does the same projection. Just like a pathological liar, he accuses everyone of lying. He accuses others of doing what he is doing. The man cannot tell the truth, but he combines it with being a narcissist.
It's, of course, actually the most accurate things Ted Cruz has ever said in his lifetime. But back then, he was pretending to be a tough guy. In fact, his whole career was built on, like, I'll shut down the government. I'll do what other establishment Republicans won't do. I'm so tough. And Donald, you leave Heidi the hell alone. Otherwise, I'll bring her to dinner and let you be gracious to her as I snivel to you later. Oh, that's so sad. Now, why is he doing that? Because he's not actually a tough guy. He's not courageous. He just does whatever his donors tell him to do. And his number one donor during the primaries was the Mercer family, who then switched over after he lost and was the number one donor to Donald Trump. And after he did not endorse Donald Trump at the Republican convention, he went up to the Mercer suite and they slammed the door in Cruz's face. Oh, ouch, that hurts. All of a sudden, not so tough. All of a sudden, oh no, I meant Donald is gracious and wonderful and warm. Did I say pathological liar? I meant I love Donald Trump. Oh, you're so sad. But let's finish him and show you my favorite picture in the world. This is during the general election when he finally caved and started making calls for Trump. Hi, this is Ted Cruz. Can you please help elect Donald Trump? That's literally the saddest picture I've ever seen. Ted. I didn't want to do it. You made me do it, Ted. Don't send out nice tweets about Donald Trump. Just shh. Pathetic. Okay. Tough guy. Okay, let's move forward. Speaking of tough guys and getting embarrassed. Okay. Now, Donald Trump's been very tough on CNN. He calls them fake news all the time. In fact, here, let me show you this tweet. He says, the fake news media, failing New York Times, NBC News, ABC, CBS, and CNN is not my enemy. It is the enemy of the American people. And it wasn't just tweets. He said it as well. Let's watch the video.
A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people.
And as I showed you, specifically in that tweet, he mentioned CNN. So Jeff Zucker, who runs CNN, was outraged by that, rightfully so. He said that Trump's comments were, quote, dangerous, unprecedented, and shocking. Shocking. Okay, well, I think it's fair. I mean, I've never seen a president say that the press is the enemy of the people. It is absolutely outrageous. Zucker's absolutely right about that. In fact, he went on to say, it has been shocking to watch how many members of the political establishment have not been willing to stand up to that statement. Well, that part I don't agree with because that part is not shocking. Politicians are cowards. They're errand boys for their donors. To expect them to do something courageous is a fool's errand. But okay, overall, I understand the sentiment though, and Jeff Zucker's totally right about that. So, of course, in response, he's gonna show Donald Trump what's what. He's gonna hold him accountable, and CNN is gonna be the watchdog that we need. That's why today they hired Jason Miller. Who's Jason Miller? Trump's former senior communications advisor and spokesperson. Ugh, that's embarrassing, dude. After he criticizes you like that and he spits in your face, you go do him a favor by hiring the guy who was his mouthpiece, and you're gonna pay Donald Trump's mouthpiece to be on your air and do his propaganda. Now, I want to remind you of this interaction that Donald Trump had with Jim Acosta from CNN. This is right when they were most heated, and look at how badly Donald Trump treats CNN here. Watch.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you state
She's
categorically,
asking a question. Don't
Mr.
be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No,
give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
He called you fake news and then you hired his mouthpiece. It reminds me, of course, of John Stossel and Dr. David D. Schultz.
I think this is fake.
You think it's fake? What's that? Is that fake? Huh? What the hell's wrong with you? That's open hand slap, huh? You think it's fake? You come like this fake? Easy, huh? What do you mean?
What the hell's wrong with you? That's an open-handed slap. Jeff, he open-handed slapped you. And what'd you do? You paid his mouthpiece. You hired his former spokesperson and you're paying him a good salary to do propaganda on your air. That's embarrassing. Embarrassing. You did it before too with Corey Lewandowski. Oh, I'm fair and balanced. I mean, I'll have some people tell the truth and some people tell lies. Some people that will be challenge the government a little bit, then I'll brag about it, right? And then some people who'll just do propaganda for the government. No matter how much they lie, it doesn't matter. And it's not like he's the only person who supports Trump on CNN. There's two others at least, Jeffrey Lord and all the other people who make outrageous defense of Donald Trump. But this is his former spokesperson. Now, our graphic here, most busted name in news, that might seem harsh, right? Well, it turns out it doesn't matter. If you insult CNN, they hire you. If you really insult CNN, they'll pay you a ton of money to insult them on their own air. It's an open-handed slap. What are you going to do about it? The answer isn't nothing. The answer is yes, sir, absolutely, sir. I will not hire your former spokesperson in an effort to be fair to you. The correct answer is actually do watchdog journalism. I don't care what the Republican Party says. I don't care what the Democratic Party says. I don't care what Trump says. I don't care what the government says. What is the truth? What is the reality? You don't need two sides doing propaganda. You just need all of your people to actually try to arrive at what is real. You don't need to pay someone to do propaganda after they spit in your face. But the mainstream media is never, ever, ever going to get it. As Jeff Zucker said earlier, that the era of access journalism was over. Well, what is this? It's not over. It took like a 2-week vacation and they're right back in it. This is why no one trusts the media. Luckily, there's a new independent media and we don't play this game. Can you imagine us paying a Trump spokesperson? Or a Democratic spokesperson or any of those guys? No, our job is to hold them to account, and that should be everybody's job in the media. But for CNN, they are so proud today. They got a Trump guy, and they're paying him a lot of money. They're making it rain on him. Congratulations. Boy, you're so trusted. And they can't figure out why the American people have lost faith in the mainstream media. It's not that complicated. Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. Time to read a couple of quick tweets for you guys. Grumpy Old Nerd writes in, rich people taxing the poor to build golden palaces isn't new. It goes all the way back to the first person to call himself king. And speaking of which, I've got a lot of Donald Trump corruption stories coming up for you in this segment. Jay Glory says, video clip montages are better than any I see in the mainstream media. Thank you, we appreciate it. Most of that is done by the legendary producer, J.R. Jackson. Laura Lou says, catching TYT live, actually live now that I'm back in the States. Even got my 71-year-old mom watching. She says she loves that jank guy. Right back at you, okay? 71-year-old mom of Laura Lou, bless your heart, okay? Adrian Ginn says they want access, so CNN had to buy one of his people. That's right. And Far Left says CNN should change its slogan from the most trusted name in news to too weak. All right, let me read out a couple of names of people who are helping us do journalism. Our reporters are unabated and unbowed. I'll tell you a quick story about this, okay? Nomi is covering, you guys helped to hire Nomi through tytnetwork.com/go. And then she was covering the DNC race. And then Tom Perez started, and his people started complaining, oh, you guys are basically being too aggressive. Now that got back to me. And normally that's when the person in charge goes, oh, no, wait a minute, I need access. I was like, Nomi, double down. Do a video right now, hit him again. And by the way, it's not a matter of hitting him. I hit him. Nomi was asking the same exact questions to every candidate, but Perez didn't want to answer them, okay? She did a video, I did a video, and guess what happened? So in the old days, like the media would be like, oh, please give us access. Tom Perez did the interview anyway. Because you know what? They're afraid of you guys. Too strong, man. So thank you to Marco from California, gave $50. Leonora from Michigan, $50, and Dan from New Hampshire, $127. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And that is tytnetwork.com/go to help us hire those journalists. By the way, next week, a lot of them are going to be here. Nomi, Jordan, Michael Tracy are all going to be on here. Ryan Grimm, and they're going to be on air with us. They're all coming out to LA, and we're going to have them on the air throughout most of the week. So that's going to be super exciting. Thank you to everyone who donated and made that possible. Now, let's tell you about Trump corruption. Okay. I love that graphic. Okay. So recently, Donald Trump decided that he was going to praise ExxonMobil to no end. That's kind of curious. Now, he loves him some ExxonMobil. That's why he made Rex Tillerson their CEO, the Secretary of State. That's unbelievable. He decided to do a media blitz. In fact, BuzzFeed describes it as such. They say the president's media blitz came within hours of a meeting with Tillerson, the former ExxonMobil CEO, who was once the company's largest single shareholder. Well, now let's see. Is that true? I mean, was he really that complimentary of ExxonMobil? Let's watch.
Pleased to announce that the great company ExxonMobil is going to be investing $20 billion in the Gulf Coast and the Gulf Coast region. It'll be 45,000 jobs, and they're great jobs, $100,000 average. And this is something that was done to a large extent because of our policies and the policies of this new administration having to do with regulation and so many other things. So I said we're bringing back jobs. This is one big example of it. So I just want to congratulate everybody, and I want to thank very much ExxonMobil, special company, special people. Thank you.
Okay, now the specifics of how many jobs are going to be created, et cetera, Donald Trump's a pathological liar. No one can confirm any of those numbers. But was that a giant ad for ExxonMobil or what? So Tillerson has a meeting with him. He does that ad, and then the White House puts out a press release. Now, let me read you, this is awesome, what ExxonMobil lobbyists wrote. Then I'm going to read you the White House press release, see if you could find any differences. So here's a press release from ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil is strategically investing in new refining and chemical manufacturing projects in the U.S. Gulf Coast region to expand its manufacturing and export capacity. The company is growing. The Gulf expansion program consists of 11 major chemical, refining, lubricant, and liquefied natural gas projects and proposed new and existing facilities along the Texas and Louisiana coasts. Investments began in 2013 and are expected to continue through at least 2022. Now, let me read you the White House statement on this same issue. ExxonMobil is strategically investing in new refining and chemical manufacturing projects in the United States Gulf Coast region to expand its manufacturing and export capacity. The company's growing. The Gulf program consists of 11 major chemical, refining, lubricant, and liquefied natural gas projects that propose new and existing facilities along the Texas and Louisiana coasts. Investments began in 2013 and are expected to continue through at least 2022. In other words, identical. To be fair, I looked. There was one difference. They spelled out United States at the White House press release. They're doing giant ads for this giant oil company. What in the world is going on? Now, Time explains, through the statement and subsequent tweets, President Trump heavily complimented Exxon, which was most recently run by Trump's Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, for promoting job growth in the U.S. Now, there's two elements to this story. One is, this is what Russia wants. It is no exaggeration at all. The Russians had a $500 billion deal with which American company? You want to guess? ExxonMobil. And the sanctions that Obama put into place blocked that $500 billion deal. So now the Russians want those sanctions removed. Trump winds up getting helped by the Russians in an election. I'll just leave it at what's in the public record, okay? And then all of a sudden, the Russians' best friend, Rex Tillerson, the guy that they had that $500 billion deal with, Rex Tillerson, the head of ExxonMobil, becomes the Secretary of State. Then Tillerson meets with Trump. A couple of hours later, Trump is like, oh my God, ExxonMobil. It's so awesome, I love ExxonMobil. Now, there's a second component to this. So, Exxon gets what it wants, the Russians get what they want. But there's the problem with conflict of interest. Now, Rex Tillerson was a former CEO. As he became the Secretary of State, he said, no, I'm going to get rid of all my interest in ExxonMobil. But did he? He said at the time that there would be, quote, a complete and clear and clean break. He also said, and again, I told people I don't even want the appearance that there's any connection to myself and the future fortunes up or down of the ExxonMobil Corporation. Now, let's tell you the amount of money that he had in there and what he's done with it since. Before becoming Secretary of State, as reported by BuzzFeed, Tillerson owned 600,000 shares of Exxon stock, in addition to 2 million deferred shares that would have been given to him over 10 years. Now, he apparently, well, let me give you the exact details. As of December 31st, Tillerson was officially retired from ExxonMobil. He vowed to forego unpaid bonuses, which lost him about $4 million. Now, give him credit on that. So he puts aside $4 million in bonuses. Now, and he's officially retired. Does that mean he got rid of all of his shares? First of all, the majority of the shares go to this. In a January 3rd press release, Exxon announced it would place payments related to deferred stock somewhere in the neighborhood of $160 million into a trust that would be run by an independent trustee. Now, I don't know the specifics of how that works, but he still has those shares. How blind could it be? Maybe they have a way of making it really blind. Do they sell the shares? That is very difficult for me to determine looking at it from the outside. But okay, he still has wow, he put aside $4 million. He still has $160 million in deferred shares coming over the next 10 years. So are his fortunes tied to ExxonMobil? Of course they are. Okay, but that's the good news. Now let me show you the bad news. If Tillerson retained all of the 600,000 shares, these are the ones that did not go into the blind trust, they would have on Monday been worth $49.7 million. So he was supposed to get rid of those because he already has those shares. He didn't get rid of them, not yet. And while he still has those shares that are worth about $50 million, Donald Trump does a giant ad for ExxonMobil. And then the markets will react to that, and the stock price could easily go up of ExxonMobil. And then look at that guy who happens to own at least 50 million shares. Right before he sells it, might have a nice little bump up in the price. The corruption is so obvious. They're slapping you across the face with it, and they're just laughing at you. Like, yeah, of course. I'm going to do an ad for ExxonMobil. Rex is going to get rich. And then the Russians are going to get rich because they're going to do that deal with ExxonMobil. I took a guy who's totally unqualified, never been a diplomat in his life, never even thought about it, and I made him our Secretary of State just so he could do deals like this. They're not hiding the corruption. It's in plain sight. In fact, it's almost as if they're Dr. David D. Schultz and the voters are John Stossel. Go back to video 6 for me, Jesus. This is what they're doing to you guys. I took him by surprise, so give him a minute.
I think this is fake.
You think it's fake? What's that? Is that fake? Huh? What the hell's wrong with you? That's open hand slap, huh? You think it's fake? You come like this face? Huh? What do you mean?
Don't let him do that to you. Fight back. They're not even doing you the decency of hiding the corruption. They think, what are you going to do? It's an open-handed slap, but you're not going to do anything but run away. Okay, now more corruption. Let's go to China. Now, we were told recently that's okay. Donald Trump is not going to be involved in any of the businesses. They're not going to have any foreign ties at all. In fact, they're going to go further. Ross Story explains Trump and his children, who are overseeing the Trump Organization while he serves in the White House, have promised not to conduct foreign deals during his presidential term. Now, that's curious because Donald Trump, while running for president in 2016, asked for an enormous number of trademarks and copyrights in China. Interesting. And let's just find out what happened right after he got elected. It turns out China has granted preliminary approval to 38 new Trump trademarks that would allow the US president and his family to develop name-branded hotels, golf courses, and other hospitality services. Okay, even if they didn't develop it while Trump is in office, the fact that they got permission to develop it is already worth an enormous amount of money to them. And they clearly are doing it while he's in charge. It's clearly unconstitutional, and it's clear corruption. So I'm going to give you the details on why the corruption is clear in a second. But first, let's have a little bit of fun and find out the different kind of businesses that Trump trademarked. You're going to enjoy this. The pending trademarks are for Trump-branded golf clubs. That makes sense. Hotels. Okay, I get it. Insurance, finance, and real estate companies. All right, logical. Massage parlors. What? And social escort and concierge services, the Associated Press reported. Trump massages? Trump handies in Shanghai now. Man, I didn't see that coming, literally. Okay, now I could have fun with this all day long, and if they do this, it would be the first time a Trump business had a happy ending. But I don't think that's what they're going for here. To be fair, oftentimes you'll also buy trademarks to block other people using your name. So if other people wanted to set up, Trump massages in China, he would be able to block it. Now, we don't know what he plans to do with it. We just know that he's got trademarks. Maybe we're being overly fair to him. Fame has this cycle, right? You, in the beginning, you get a little famous, then you get very famous, and then at some point you crash and burn. That's coming in a little bit later for Trump. And then at some point you lose all your money because you're used to spending it like a drunken sailor. And then you get desperate, but you still have a little bit of fame. And I call that when you get super desperate, the porn part of fame. That's when oh God, I've run out of all options and I got to do porn, right? And so for Trump, that might be in, I don't know if it's 4 years, 5 years, or 10 years. Well, we do have that Trump branded escort service and massage parlors in China. What are you gonna do? Or when their dad's in jail, Donald and Eric, the doofuses that they are, I don't know, you wanna do the massage parlor thing? Okay, anyways, for the moment being, let's leave that aside, okay? I gotta hand it to them. I'm not saying that they're gonna do the massage parlors right away. So let's get to the serious business here. Ethics lawyers have consistently warned that Trump could be in violation of the US Constitution's emoluments clause, which is the most awkwardly phrased clause in America, anyway, which bans public servants from accepting anything of value from foreign states without congressional approval if he receives special treatment from China during the process. Did he receive special treatment? Well, let's go to the experts who do this all the time, try to get these kind of approvals from the Chinese government. Does it normally happen this way, where you just get 38 right away? Well, Richard Painter, former White House ethics lawyer with George W. Bush's administration, so deeply Republican, he says, a routine trademark, patent, or copyright from a foreign government is likely not an unconstitutional emolument. But with so many trademarks being granted over such a short time period, the question arises as to whether there is an accommodation in at least some of them. And then Raw Story quoting Associated Press says, an expert on intellectual property law in Hong Kong told the AP he'd never seen so many trademark applications approved so quickly and so smoothly. And Dan Plain, IP Services Director, says, for all these marks to sail through so quickly and cleanly, with no similar marks, no identical marks, no issues with specifications, boy, it's weird.
I think it's weird.
It is indeed. If you're a regular business owner and you ask China, I'd like to have these 38 trademarks and copyrights, and snap to it. It's not how it works. It takes a long time. They come back with notes. They ask for adjustments. You negotiate. Goes on and on and on. And they'll approve some, then a little bit later, maybe more, etc. In this case, they're like, yes, Mr. Trump. Oh, you, after making the call with Taiwan, you now have backpedaled and say that you agree with the one China policy, and you kicked out a Tibetan soccer team from the US. Very good, very good. 38 trademarks, check, approved overnight, good night. Okay, fantastic, we're done with it. Is he enriching himself while he's in office? The answer is, Of course, this is enriching yourself. All of those approvals are worth a ton of money. And he got them because he's the president and he knows it and it's brazen. And he's just rubbing it in your face. He's like, what are you gonna do? Keep up with my corruption with ExxonMobil, with Russia, with China, with my hotel in Washington? I've got so many different corruption scandals going at the same time, let alone all the other insane things I say that you'll never even keep track. That's the strategy. Largely true from the moment being, but at some point, if you do enough illegal or unconstitutional things, it will come back to bite you. So note all this stuff for the record because he thinks he's clever. I don't think it's clever at all. At some point, you get caught. This isn't Trump University, and you're not dealing with some 2-bit New York City public officials that you could bribe through campaign donations. You're the president of the United States. Everybody's watching. It's not that clever at all. At some point, he gets caught. Okay. Now, more corruption. Now, but this is on a grander scale and it's for the entire Republican Party. So now that Donald Trump's president, the Republican Party officials, politicians, and most especially the donors think it's party time. Oh, they're in hog heaven. No holds barred. Just Katie bar the door. We're coming. They want every single thing they ever dreamed of. So right now, they're asking for every tax cut in the world. They are deregulating at an unbelievable pace. They're cutting spending in the government across the board. They're getting everything they ever dreamed of. Now later, they'll throw Trump under a bus and then go, oh, you're mad at those policies? Oh, golly gee, that wasn't us, the Republican Party. That was that crazy guy, Donald Trump. No. It's the entire Republican Party, and they're doing it right now. Now, the latest twist in this is, well, wouldn't it be cool if corporations were above the law and they couldn't really practically sue us at all? Then we could do whatever the hell we wanted. I mean, obviously, they're not going to do any kind of law enforcement while Trump's in charge, while the Republicans are in charge. So we're free and clear on that. They're cutting the IRS by 14%. They're not going to audit us. Oh, these lawyers that actually want to represent people we've harmed. That's pesky. Let's get rid of that. So they now have 2 laws that they have proposed. One of them, as explained here, the law would put restrictions on the criteria for people banding together for a class action suit. It also would complicate and delay any payments for an attorney representing the clients. Such an act would make it risky for any lawyer to take on a case to help someone hurt by a corporation. So what does that mean? Now, the reason why class action lawsuits are so important is if a company accidentally or on purpose, who knows, poisoned the river near you, or a pill that you ate, or food that you ate, and you want to sue them, if it's just one guy, you have no chance. They have an army of lawyers. Who are you going to sue them with? How in the world would you get the money to do that? And they know that. They want to make you powerless. The only way that you could actually sue them and hold them to account for the damage that they have done to you, your family, your loved ones, is if you could band together. They hate it when you band together. That's why they hate it when you do unions. One employee versus a giant employer has no chance. If you go up to your boss in one of those giant corporations, go, I don't want minimum wage, I'd like higher. That's cute, you're fired immediately, get the hell out. Now, if the entire company does that, an entire factory does that, well, then now you've balanced the power a little bit and you can have real negotiations. Now, basically a similar concept in law. If it's one guy, you're never gonna win. You don't have enough money. They'll crush you. Now, if you gather up a whole bunch of people, for example, you remember the Aaron Brockovich case? That was a class action lawsuit. A whole community had been hurt by the actions of this company. Some of them had died. So she brought them all together and they sued and they won. It turns out they were right. The company was damaging them. They were hurting their health, their family's health, and some people had died because of it. Thank God she was able to do that lawsuit. Lawsuits is to hold people accountable. Now what they would do is take that away. Class action lawsuits become much more difficult, and then they punish the lawyers who bring them. Now, the only hope you have if you're poor or middle class is that a lawyer takes it and then says, all right, if we win, I'll get a certain percentage of the win, because you don't have the money to pay them. They're very expensive. That's the only way they could do it. Now in this law, nope, sorry. We're going to make it financially impossible for the lawyers to take them. We're going to punish the lawyers who want to represent the poor and the middle class so that they get no representation at all. So that it's easier to crush them and poison them and do whatever the hell we want. Now, not all corporations are bad. That's crazy talk. They're not all going to poison you. Of course not, right? But there are bad actors. And that's how we hold them accountable. That's how we separate out the good actors from the bad actors. Not every corporation is sued. Only the ones that are doing things that are actually harming the community. If you take that power away from the American people, you'll have nothing left to protect yourself. So, and that's not all. There's another part of this. They say HR 720, the Lawsuit Abuse Reduction Act, would require federal judges penalize or otherwise discipline any attorney that brings what they consider to be a quote-unquote frivolous lawsuit. Currently, this decision is left up to the judge's discretion. Now, they make it mandatory so that they could punish lawyers who dare challenge corporations. Know your role. Everyone bow down to multinational corporations. Now, the reality is, if it was an actual frivolous lawsuit, the judge can already sanction that. In fact, any judge can dismiss a lawsuit as frivolous already. If a suit goes to a jury trial, it's because a judge already considers it to be a valid lawsuit. But no, not enough, not enough. If you lose, we're going to make punishing you mandatory, because there can be no one holding multinational corporations accountable as they rob us of our sovereignty, our ability to fight back, our ability to basically protect ourselves and our families. The Republicans are in charge. There are no more rules. These corporations that bought off all these politicians through their infinite corruption now think, yes, we get every present we ever wanted. We hand our Christmas wish list, not just to Trump, but this is the Republicans in Congress doing it. And all those Republicans say, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. How would you like to crush the average American, sir? Done, I'll introduce those bills immediately. And now I was gonna do that story for you anyway, and then today there's a new story out with a third bill is specifically designed for Bank of America. Bank of America is the one that does most of these transactions. According to the records the Huffington Post looked into, they're the only ones lobbying on this bill. Why? So let's give you the details. The way the bill is written, it would shield significant conflicts of interest in the ETF world from a host of lawsuits for no apparent reason. Now, if you don't know what ETFs are, they're a financial instrument, kind of like a mutual fund, usually on an index of the stock market. That's not the important part. The important part is Bank of America does a lot of those deals. And if they're doing self-dealing and not letting the customers know that they're doing self-dealing, well, that used to be a problem. Now, what they're doing is let's pass a law that says you can't sue me for that. Of course you should represent the best interests of your client. But in another story I told you about in the last week, they're also stripping that provision away. That was a regulation saying, hey, if you're in the financial world, you must represent the best interests of your client. Now the Republicans are saying, no, you don't have to represent the best interests of your client. Isn't that amazing? They're rubbing your face in it. And this is another version of that. No, Bank of America, you can do anything you like. You want to rob your clients, you want to charge them secret rates that they can't see, or you make more money by doing the self-dealing, you bring it to another part of the company or another company you have a deal with, but you don't tell the client and you charge them extra percentage. Go ahead. I won't even let them sue you. I'll change the law so there's nothing your clients can do about it. Amazing. I'll give you one more description of this law. As is currently written, listen to this Orwellian title, the Fair Access to Investment Research Act. It actually blocks your access to investment research. It's amazing. Would make it harder to sue a company when it issues bogus research reports during the launch of an ETF that it manages. The great American robbery has begun. They're going to loot the place in its entirety. Now there are no brakes in the car. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. All the goodies their donors ever wanted is going to go straight into their pockets. So, look, there is terrible corruption in the Democratic Party too. I think the whole system is built wrong. If you build a system where private interests finance our elections, The people who are elected will serve those private interests. They will not serve the public. It is not our House of Representatives. They will represent the donors and not the voters. We've built the system in a wrong way. I think Wolfpack is the answer. You do a constitutional amendment and you make it illegal to take these campaign donations from private interests, from multinational corporations, from the incredibly rich. You make it illegal. You publicly finance elections so that the politicians serve the public. They become our representative. Wolf-pack.com. That's how you fix the system. We've got to get an amendment. We've got to do it right away. Now, at the state level, Republicans agree with that. Democrats agree with that. We win in so many different places, and certainly the voters. Republican voters hate the corruption. I'm not blaming you guys at all. You hate the crony capitalism. You're true Americans, just like Democrats, libertarians, and independents, okay? 90% of Americans agree this is disgusting. But at the national level, the Republicans have cornered the market on corruption. If the Democratic Party is 80% corrupt, and it probably is, the Republican Party at this point is just about 100% corrupt. They brazenly represent these multinational corporations and strip away any power the average American has to fight back. And they're doing it in these three different ways as we speak. If they get all those things put into law, you'll have no recourse at all. If those corporations run over your family, you won't even have a lawyer to represent you. You won't be able to band together to fight back. They'll strip you of all of your power, all of your sovereignty. This is what the Republican Party has become. It is the swamp. Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks, $127 from Sharon in Michigan. Bless your hearts. You know, at the 127, you guys are still getting the Trump shirt if you wanted. Trump is a Night King in Game of Thrones. The night is dark and full of tweets. Fun shirt. $100 from Frank in California. $127 from Ryan in Washington. You know, at 270, you get a shirt. You get this thumb drive with all the soundboard stuff.
Sarabies!
You can tell your friends all day long.
Abi Kibar, Trump, Sarkar.
Your mama tweets in, to be fair, the Republican rallies, the people there always cheer when he talks about Obamacare repeal, so that's all that Trump knows. Yes, if you're a sophisticated person, you would know that, hey, some people like Obamacare, some people don't like Obamacare, some of the upsides, downsides, but Trump being a child, and I'm really being unfair to children here, but it's like, me no like Obamacare. Which part, Donald? I don't care, I don't know. The whole country hates it. That's what people would applaud when I say Obamacare is bad.
It's a complicated issue.
But who could have known? Nobody knew. Nobody knew that it was complicated.
So complicated.
And if anybody knew, it would be him because...
You know, I'm like a smart person.
Jesus Christ. Anyway. Hey, Jesus, can I see tytnetwork.com/go one more time here? 1.33329. Can I see, I haven't done this in a while. Can I see 385 by the end of the show? Well, probably not, right? But can we try? Let's hire more reporters. Come on. Look, the one thing I don't think we've done enough is investigate Trump enough. That's what I want to do next. Okay? And I know some of the folks that we would love to hire at that 1.5 number, and I think you guys would love them. So let's try to get there. Okay, Casper, what's next?
All right. Fox has settled a pretty serious sexual assault claim against a executive at, let me start that again. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, you were fine, but nonetheless, go for it.
No, it was not fine.
No, okay, we're starting again, guys.
Lost my train of thought right off the bat. Okay. Fox has settled another sexual assault case with one of its former contributors. This woman is Tamara Holder, and it shockingly does not involve Roger Ailes, but it does involve another former executive with Fox News. Now, in late February, 21st Century Fox reached a settlement worth more than $2.5 million with a former Fox News contributor who reported that she was sexually assaulted by an executive at the company headquarters 2 years ago. So this assault it happened 2 years ago in 2015, and she had contacted lawyers about possibly pressing charges, and lawyers didn't even really want to work with her because they thought that she didn't have a chance against an executive, and that her name wasn't big enough for people to take her seriously.
It's so sick. Like, what does that mean? Why? What does your name being big or not big have anything to do with whether you were sexually assaulted or not? But they said that it might ruin her career, her agents, lawyers, etc., because, well, then you become hard to work with.
You become toxic. They use the word toxic.
We still live in this world. Isn't that amazing? I think for younger people, even for me, and I'm not that young, I find that shocking. Like, you're gonna blame the victim and then say, oh, no, she's a troublemaker because she wouldn't let executives sexually assault her. Not harass her, assault her, as you're about to see.
Yes.
Right? And so we should discriminate against her. Yeah. But a lot of older Americans do think that way.
Now, why did Fox decide to settle this case? Let's go to graphic 4. The network investigated her claims, and the executive, Francisco Cortez, the vice president for Fox News Latino, was terminated, according to 2 people familiar with the matter. Ms. Holder has said that Mr. Cortez, who was close with Mr. Ailes, invited her into his office, shut the door, then poured shots of tequila for each of them, according to a document drafted by Ms. Holder's lawyers that outlines her claims.
Hold on one second, Anna. So this is the point in the story where I was curious as I'm reading this New York Times description. Like, how do they do this? Like, it's so outrageous to me. How do you try to get a woman who's a contributor on air for you, who's a lawyer, who's an analyst, to try to sleep with you as an executive? What a weird, awkward, unbelievable thing, right?
Right. You would think that it would be, I don't know, coy, like. Yeah. Not aggressive or too overt. But no, this was an overt situation.
Yeah, no, I thought that they would like do some trick or some like persuasion. No. They're just animals, that's all. Here, listen to what happened.
Okay, so Mr. Cortez then got out of his chair, approached her chair, held the door shut with his left hand, and used his right hand to push her mouth toward his penis, which he had taken out of his pants, according to the document. Ms. Holder fled the room.
There are 4 people who corroborate this story.
Yes.
Okay. So, and obviously now Fox corroborates the story because they fired him and they paid her. So it happened apparently just like this. So this guy, Cortez, was good friends with Roger Ailes. And they probably had a good laugh over a beer about how Roger does this all the time, because now when we now find out there's dozens of cases where Roger Ailes did similar things. So Cortez thinks, well, the big guy's doing it, and he's been getting away with it for decades.
Yes.
Why don't I give it a shot? I'll pour tequila shots, hold the door, and see what I can do.
Yeah. So this is a very important story to follow up on what happened yesterday, which was, of course, International Women's Day. And, you know, there have been a number of young, attractive, blonde, conservative women arguing that these are just women who don't know what they're talking about. What are they protesting? Women have complete equality. They're just being victims. And so, no. This is the kind of activity that happens in companies for decades, and there's never any justice. Luckily, in this case, there have been a number of settlements, right? Just to give you a few examples, $20 million settlement with Gretchen Carlson, whose lawsuit against Mr. Ailes in July led to his ouster. A deal with Juliette Huddy, a longtime Fox News personality who made sexual harassment claims against the network's top-rated host, Bill O'Reilly. And now the agreement with Ms. Holder, who had been a legal and political analyst at Fox News since 2010. So next time, a young conservative talking head is like, oh my God, like what's wrong with these women? Like they don't even understand that they're totally treated equal and they're just over there complaining about nothing. Yeah, how about you're young and you're attractive and maybe you haven't come across situations like this in the workplace, but a lot of women have, and they haven't been taken seriously and they get brushed under the rug, right? And their careers in a lot of cases get destroyed if they have the audacity to come forward. But that's just one of the things that women were out there, you know, talking about yesterday. So just keep all of that in mind. Don't pretend like women are completely equal to men in every workplace, and just because you are a young, white, privileged, conservative girl who's given a job on television doesn't mean that your experiences are the same as the experiences of other women. And by the way, give me a call when you're, I don't know, 40, and we'll see where you're at in your life.
Yeah, so it's the same thing as with most conservatives. They have no empathy.
Yeah.
So they're like, wait, I wasn't sexually harassed, so I guess there must be no sexual harassment. Is it possible that it happened to other people and that you should try to help them fight back? I don't know. It didn't happen to me, so I don't care at all.
Like, I don't know. It didn't happen to me. I'm blonde and I'm hot and I have perky tits, and that's all that matters.
Right. And I'm also used because people think I'm attractive, but there's no sexual harassment and there's no, judging people based on their looks. Are you sure about that? Right. So anyway, in this case, it's much more serious, but you see the culture at Fox News where the top anchor does it, the top boss does it, the other executives do it, because ever since they've been in business, Roger Ailes has been authorizing it, doing it himself. And it goes all the way back to, and I mentioned older Americans. Of course, most older Americans are wonderful people, but there is that older culture that still exists with some of the executives, some of the top executives who are in their 60s and 70s, the Mad Men era. And that's where Roger Ailes came from. And back when he ran a talk show on television, when he was the producer of it, he would audition girls and he would demand oral sex. And if they didn't give him oral sex, they never got to be on the show. So that's what he grew up in and thought that was perfectly normal. You either have sex with them or you sexually assault them. He did the same thing Cortez did in one of the cases from the 1980s where he took out his penis and chased a woman around the room with it, okay?
Oh, God.
So Cortez thinks, well, that's par for the course. This is what we do at Fox News. And remember—
family values, guys.
Exactly. This is the network that claims they're for family values. You have to understand how monumentally full of shit they are. So when you hear family values on Fox News, remember their executives with their penises out, chasing women around, who are legal analysts, for Christ's sake. I mean, it doesn't matter who they are, but they have no respect for anyone, including their top hosts.
Yep.
They did it to Megyn Kelly, apparently. Not the assault, but the harassment. They did it to Gretchen Carlson and all these conservative women who are like, oh, what's all the big deal and all the fuss about? And all of a sudden it happens to them. They're like, whoa, that's crazy. And now it's happening to me. I didn't know that. Really, when you got hired at Fox News and they told you couldn't wear pants, that you had to wear short skirts on TV, and you had to sit in a position where men could always look at your legs, then you're surprised that this turns out not to be a family values channel, but a channel run by perverts. Shocked and chagrined.
All right. Moving on to other news. A law lecturer from Australia is facing more than 900 separate child sex charges after investigators found that he was posing as Justin Bieber online in order to lure underage girls and exploit them. His name is Gordon Douglas Chalmers, and there was a story about him in late November last year that we covered, and now we have more details about what happened. Now, authorities from the United States and Germany alerted police officials in Australia about him, and there was an investigation, and they found some pretty terrible evidence regarding his sex crimes. Now, Chalmers was charged with using a carriage service to procure and groom children for sex and to access child pornography. He was also charged with possessing child porn. Now, when they looked into his computers and searched his home, they found that he was using Facebook and Skype, in order to lure young girls. At least 157 child victims have been identified at this point. 50 of them are from the United States, 6 of them are from Australia, the rest are from other parts of the world. His Skype account had 123,000 conversations with 6,000 contacts, many of which were underage girls.
Jesus, man. So this is the kind of stuff that scares the hell out of parents. That there's perverts online who are posing as, and look, kids are impressionable. They don't know. They haven't lived a full life. They're going after, teens and imagine, like, they want to believe Justin Bieber contacted them. It's so exciting. If you like Justin Bieber and the thought that he might, you want to believe it. You desperately want to believe it. And so he lures them in that way, and it looks like he says, okay, now send me pictures of yourself. and they think it's Bieber, and they're like, well, okay, it's Bieber, and I'll do that. And then he takes the pictures and he goes, hey, I got pictures of you. If, I'll release them to your parents, to the internet, so you better do X, Y, and Z. And next thing you know, 931 child sex offenses.
It's insane. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say about this. I'm glad that he was caught, but they found evidence of his crimes dating back to 2007. So it's been happening for a long time. And luckily he did get caught thanks to authorities in 3 different countries that, investigated this and found out that he was doing something wrong. But I think more than anything, people need to, recalibrate the way they talk to kids about the internet, right? And so I think that parents, unfortunately, are now forced to talk about really uncomfortable topics very early on in a child's life.
Yep.
And so, especially when it comes to the internet, you got to monitor everything they do. But even if you try to do that, it's nearly impossible, right? They're going to have access when you don't even know it. You just have to educate your kids as much as possible about what potential harm there is out there. If anyone asks your kids for a nude picture, you got to make sure you equip them with the knowledge that that is unacceptable. They cannot do that, because that's how this starts. They convince these kids to send nudes or whatever it is, and then it snowballs from there. They exploit them. They'll tell them that, hey, I'm gonna share this. They blackmail them, and so they're kids. They're kids.
Yeah, and by the way, it goes to both sexes, and so this has almost become the new Nigerian Prince email scam that they used to do. So we did a story about a guy who gets young boys to send him pictures by posing to be a girl. And so they get excited, oh, I'm gonna have sex with a girl, and they send the pictures of their genitalia, and then he turns around and says, okay, I'm gonna release it unless you do X, Y, and Z. So unfortunately, you gotta talk to your kids pretty damn young to let them know that there's predators like that online. And look, the internet is wonderful in 1,000 different ways, but it's also filled with people who are not what they appear to be. And by the way, they live among us, man. This guy's a 42-year-old law lecturer, goes around giving lectures on the law.
Yes.
Then goes home and does this. It's pretty scary stuff.
Yeah. All right, moving on to some political news.
Oh, I love this story.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dan Savage was recently talking about Melania Trump on his show Savage Love, and he did go savage against Melania Trump. Now, a lot of liberals are arguing that, hey, Melania Trump should be off limits. Just because she happens to be the first lady doesn't mean that she should be attacked. But Dan Savage isn't buying it. In fact, he had some pretty harsh words for the first lady that I want to read to you. He said, God knows there's enough hate in the world, and I don't want to add to the sum total, but forgive me, I have to get this off my chest. I fucking hate Melania Trump.
Damn, shots fired.
Yeah, so he continues, I'm not alone in loathing Donald Trump's third wife. She's married to a misogynist after all. Odds are good her husband hates her too.
That's a funny twist of logic.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. Now, here's the part that I actually do agree with him on. There's considerable disagreement between the two of us on the story, but here's the part I do agree with. He says, there are some folks on the left who not only don't hate her, they view her as some sort of sympathetic figure. The pretty princess in the tower locked up by the orange ogre with the bad comb over, a princess desperately blinking out distress signals during swearing-in ceremonies and inaugural balls. Okay, so I actually really do hate that perception that some liberals have, right? They'll analyze her body language and they're like, oh, poor Melania, like she's held captive and this. No, she made her decision. She just never really wanted to be the first lady and she never expected it, but she made her decision. She wanted to marry him. They're married. I don't think that she's held captive at all. And so don't cry for her in that regard. But my argument is, don't go after her for ridiculous things like the fact that she posed nude or that she did salacious photo shoots. She was a model, and who cares if she did that? That's not worth attacking her for.
Yeah, there are different parts where me, you, and Dan Savage agree and disagree.
Yes.
So he goes on to say that he thinks that some liberals don't want to attack her because she's pretty, and they assume that being pretty means that you're pretty on the inside. No. I don't know any liberals who think that. I don't know where he got that from.
We attack pretty people all the time.
Yes,
like Tomi Lauren's pretty, we attack her.
Sarah Palin's pretty. I mean, you should see the videos we've done on her.
Yeah.
Right? And the list goes on and on. I don't think her attractiveness has anything to do with it at all. No. So I don't know where he got that from. Okay, now, but he did swing me on the substance. Now, you shouldn't attack her just for being a first lady. I actually defended Laura Bush significantly, and some people would bring out Bush did a car accident in her youth, and they say, oh, she's this and that. Like, guys, look, that was an accident, and she's not her husband. She tries to rein him in from time to time. But anyway, she's not a political person. I don't care about her.
Right.
And like, there's no need to go into that. There's just, and it's the same thing with conservatives that went after Michelle Obama. But Melania Trump has entered the political sphere in a couple of different ways.
She has. We have an example for you. So I want to go ahead and toss to that. Let's take a quick look and see what Melania Trump had to say about Obama's citizenship.
Do you want to see President Obama birth certificate or not?
I've seen it.
It's not the birth certificate.
Well, it's a certificate of live birth,
right,
which they get. But Melania, if he insists on what he's saying, then no one in Hawaii can ever run for president because they all get the same live birth certificate.
Well, but they need to have.
Midler is finished, for example.
They need to have, and in one way, it will be very easy if President Obama just show it, and because it's not only Donald who wants to see it. It's American people who voted for him and who didn't vote for him. They want to see that.
Yeah, no, I can't stand her. So the number one reason that gets under my skin is not the usual racism that goes along with that. It's that she's an immigrant.
Yeah.
And then we found out during the campaign that actually it looks like she had the wrong kind of visa. She didn't have permission to work. She did it anyway. In some ways, she was an illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
And then she has the nerve to turn around and say Obama's not a real American. Okay, spare me your views on real Americans, Melania Trump, who came here on the wrong visa. Okay, and married a guy for, all right, if it's not for money, it's actually worse. But I want to save that to the end about my views on Melania and marrying Donald Trump. But so, look, if you thought Michelle Obama entered the political sphere by saying kids should stay in shape, okay, I guess you could attack her for that. No, kids shouldn't stay in shape, right? But Laura Bush wanted kids to read. No, kids shouldn't read. But generally, those are kind of harmless, right? Hillary Clinton, by the way, when she was the first lady, did enter the political sphere. She tried to do the health care proposal.
Yes.
And you want to attack her on that policy, totally fair game, right? And Melania, in this regard, is a giant hypocrite. And I think Dan Savage made an even better point on the policy grounds. He said she's going after journalists and bloggers with giant lawsuits saying they're interfering with her ability to profit off of her role as first lady.
There is nuance in that, and I don't think that he was fair in making that statement. So
okay, why? What do you think is the nuance?
So the Daily Mail, which is a tabloid outlet from the UK, had essentially published something that indicated that she had worked as an escort, okay? Which is defamatory. There's no evidence that she worked as an escort, and the Daily Mail actually took that piece down as a result. And so she is suing the Daily Mail for defamation. And during the lawsuit, one of her lawyers said that this defamation is harmful to her career because it could affect her ability, her once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to sell her products because, you know, she has this once-in-a-life opportunity as the first lady. So that's the nuance.
I don't think that's unfair at all.
I do think it's unfair.
If you say that the Daily Mail is wrong, I agree with you.
Yeah.
If you say she should sue, okay, I get it. It's a little weird because you're the first lady, but I get it. I understand. And if somebody says something about you that's that wrong and it's bad, I get it, right? But saying I have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get rich as first lady.
No, she deserves to get criticized for that because you are not supposed to use your position as first lady to profit and sell your product. So I agree with that criticism. But that statement of she's brought ruinous lawsuits against journalists and bloggers. No, she's brought a lawsuit against a tabloid that implied that she worked as an escort, and that's not the same as going after journalists.
Yeah. Now, look, non-political for a second on Melania Trump. And Savage goes on saying Melania Trump is as ugly on the inside as she is pretty on the outside. I don't know why Melania Trump got so much under Dan Savage's skin. I haven't given it this much thought because she hasn't been in the political sphere that much. Right. Other than some of the things we just outlined, right? And she's a plagiarist. I don't care at all. Apparently, a lot of people are plagiarists. It happens much more frequently than I realized. Okay, she married Donald Trump. Now let's break it down. There's two possibilities. One is, keep it real, she married him for the money. Okay. Now, let's give her the benefit of the doubt and say she didn't do that. That's unfair. You don't know that. Maybe they have a deep connection, right? Okay, think about that. Think about how much worse that is. She has a connection with this guy. Like, we know how much of a narcissist, empty-headed fool he is. She met this guy and was like, oh my God, he's the Donald. Almost everything he says is a lie. He's an imbecile. He goes around saying,
you know, I'm like a smart person.
I'm like a smart person. And who knew healthcare could be so complicated? Nobody knew. Nobody knew. I mean, he's a class A moron.
I mean,
and he's like obsessed with himself. He brags nonstop. He lies nonstop. Melania looked at that guy and thought, he is the one guy in the world I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with.
But it goes further than that because, yeah, he's a narcissistic moron. There's no question about that. But there's also the way that he treats women, the way that he refers to women, calling them, you know, fat pigs, you know, talking about grabbing them by their genitalia, like and all of that stuff.
Some of those, by the way, sexual harassment or sexual assault stories came out, was happening while he was married to Melania Trump.
Yes.
And in the middle of an interview about what a great family life they had, when Melania went upstairs while she was pregnant, he tried to get the reporter to have sex with him. Okay, that's the classy guy he is. But look, I don't want to parse this particular issues in their marriage because people got issues in their marriage. I understand that. Mm-hmm. But anyone who married Donald Trump and thought I nailed it, this guy's the best guy in the world, at a minimum, you've got judgment issues. Okay, I'm not sure I trust your judgment. At a minimum.
At a minimum. All right, that's all we got to say about that. Let's take a break.
All right, when we come back, vets get stood up by Donald Trump. Of course. Okay, but how so, I will tell you. And a trend that I think Anna kind of likes and I despise.
Okay.
Okay, a little bit of drama, a little bit of controversy on that when we return. All right, here are the great Americans donating for Watchdog Journalism. $127 from Sharon in Michigan, $100 from Frank in California, and $127 from Ryan in Washington. Look, there are not a lot of people doing Watchdog Journalism. I told you the story today of CNN hiring a former Trump spokesperson after he spit in their face. That is not our intention. Our intention is to do the exact opposite. So can I see where tytnetwork.com/go is at? Let's bring that up while I read. Oh, hey, oh my God. We almost got to 385.
Whoa.
Let's see, we'll check in on it one more time before the end of the show and see if we can get to 1385. Remember, this is ends at the first 100 days of Donald Trump. And tomorrow is the halfway point. And then we won't be able to do this anymore. And if we don't get to some of our goals, we won't be able to hire some of the journalists we're dying to hire. Okay. Deborah Handler says, as a New York City taxpayer, I have no sympathy for Melania. Sasha Ray says, right-wingers attacked Michelle Obama for years. Time to stop taking the high road. Melania makes her choices. There are consequences.
I know. Look, I totally agree in some ways, right? Like, as I mentioned on the show before, like it was annoying to hear the debates about whether or not it's okay to punch a Nazi. But like in this case with Melania Trump, attack her where she deserves to get attacked, right? Attacking her for modeling or posing nude is ridiculous. You don't want to lower yourself to those nasty conservatives that attacked Michelle and called her like a chimp in heels or whatever it is that they said. Like, I don't want to be associated with people like that, you know?
No, there's nothing wrong with her being nude. That's not the issue at all.
Yeah.
So member shout outs today are Sue Olmstead and Maureen Fallon. And I gotta be honest with you, yesterday's post game with John Iadarola was actually bananas.
I don't believe you.
No, it was really good. Edwin agrees. It was one of our better ones. Sorry, that happened. It happened. Okay?
Oh, someone from the boys club thinks that the male only post game was good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's all right. Well, that's I'm telling you right now.
I want to drag someone in the post game today. Not anyone here.
I don't even know what that means. That sounds like pretty brutal. What do we do?
It's just someone got under my skin and I want to bitch about it.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, let's do that. Yeah.
Did you think I was gonna like physically?
Like somebody, see what happens now. Okay, Jesus.
Oh man.
Okay. Oh, did you see Game of Thrones coming out?
I did see.
Yeah,
I'm
July.
excited.
Yeah. Anyways, so if you want to watch the post games, tytnetwork.com/join. And members get the whole 2-hour show ad-free too. And I also, in the postgame today, other than Anna's vicious dragging, we will also be finally talking about the deep state.
Oh.
Yeah. Anna, become a member. Check out the post game from yesterday and see if I'm right about it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's go forward.
All right. When Donald Trump was campaigning to be president, one talking point that he had, and he was very consistent about it, was his priority of helping veterans. He was angry at how veterans were treated in the healthcare system, and so he wanted to prioritize helping them as much as possible. Now, fast forward to Trump's administration, where Trump is president, and he's singing a different tune, and it seems as though he has no interest in even meeting with vets. In fact, since he got elected, he has not met with veterans a single time. And now vets are starting to get really upset about it. Now, apparently there was a meeting just this week with vets in the White House, and they thought that there was a huge possibility that they would finally get a face-to-face meeting with the president, and that didn't happen. So Tuesday's meeting, which was first reported by the Military Times, included Veterans Affairs Secretary David Shulkin, former apprentice contestant Omarosa Manningold, and a handful of White House staffers. Several attending the meeting said they fully expected they would have met with Trump by this point in the administration. Trump himself has still not met face-to-face with veterans groups since he was elected president.
Okay, let's pause here. Now, and I think you're being a little fair. I mean, the veterans, after all their sacrifice, and there's some of them lost limbs, traumatic brain injuries, they lost their friends. At least they got Omarosa.
They got Omarosa, and look, to be fair to Trump, he is president, and the president has very important meetings to attend. So some of those meetings on that day, while the vets were in the White House, Trump was meeting with senators in the White House, tourists in the White House basement, leaders of the AFL-CIO, and also the Boy Scouts. So, meeting with the Boy Scouts is way more important than meeting with the vets that you prioritized in your campaign.
You remember that big event that he did when he ran away from the Megyn Kelly debate?
Yeah.
When he was a coward, and then he said, oh yeah, I'm gonna do an event for veterans. They raise money for veterans. So he surrounded himself with veterans when he was running.
Yes.
Now that he won, I'm done with you guys. Here, send us some reality show contestant to deal with them.
So they're legitimately upset, and I'll give you some of the quotes from these vets in just a second. But for anyone who is a vet, and first of all, thank you for your service. But if you are a vet and you decided to vote for Trump, I need to know whether or not you're genuinely surprised that he doesn't respect you and never has. I mean, while he was campaigning and pretending like he cared about you, he talked about how John McCain is a loser because he was a prisoner of war. He was very foul-mouthed and unsavory to Kaiser Khan, who lost his son as he was in the military. I mean, he never respected you, and he was actually pretty transparent about it. So when they tell me that, oh, well, we voted for Trump because he was telling it like it is. Yeah, he told it like it is. It's just that you ignored that part and decided to listen to the lies where he pretended like he cared about you and would do something for you if you got elected.
So he said, I prefer people who weren't captured. That's unbelievable, referring to John McCain. But look, guys, everything he says is a lie. I don't know when you're gonna finally acknowledge that. So he said, oh, the generals, they're the worst. We're not winning with the generals, right? Then what did he do? He got an office, surrounded himself with generals. And he said, go Goldman Sachs and the global financial interests, they're terrible. Got an office. He broke records for how many Goldman Sachs guys are in his administration. He's got 5 guys from Goldman Sachs, including the president of Goldman Sachs in his administration. And then he's, oh, veterans, I love the veterans. As soon as he's in office, I don't need the veterans. They didn't donate to me at all. It was just a campaign prop. I'm done with him, right? When are you gonna get it? In fact, one of his own friends said he's a pathological liar. He's like, I like the guy, he's fun, but we know he just lies all the time. That's just Donnie.
It's insane. Okay, so let's hear from the vets and how they feel about Trump and his new position as president. One individual says, I won't say anyone told us we were meeting with the president, but it was implied that we would be able to voice our concerns to the boss, the guy who ultimately runs everything, which is the president. Now, they also described the ongoing efforts by veterans groups to meet directly with the president since he was elected as a fruitless effort that has left them feeling completely rebuffed by the White House. Another veteran with American Legion, actually he's the American Legion executive director, Verna Jones, he says President Trump She says, sorry about that. President Trump ran a campaign on helping veterans. When you look at who he has met with since winning, he has to make sure to make veterans a priority still.
Oh my God. So, you know, this is a trick he's done before. Hey, remember, of course, famously at Trump University, guys, you get to meet Trump if you pay $35,000 for this nonsense degree that's not a real degree from a non-real university. And it turns out when they came to meet Trump, they had a cardboard cutout of Trump. Oh my God, right? This is the kind of scam artist he is.
I know, but he's busy. He's meeting with the Boy Scouts.
So, and tourists, random tourists in the basement. And so this is the second time he sent in Omarosa to meet with veterans.
Yes.
Like, I thought, like, wait, is she a veteran or something? Why does he keep sending her in?
No, of course she's not. Of course she's not. So she was a chaplain for the military guard or something like that. Something ridiculous. And by the way, the vets themselves have showed that they're a little upset about that as well. In fact, in the first meeting with Omarosa, afterwards, one of the attendees, a veteran who wished to remain anonymous, said the following: when Omarosa was introduced, the room collectively gasped. There were people there missing limbs, and she was once a chaplain with the militia. Another in attendance said there was an obvious disconnect between that transition team and, at that point, New York.
So these guys were ready to give their lives and a lot of times gave their limbs for the war. And they're like, on the upside, you get a reality contestant. And if you guys are really good, next meeting, you might even get Khloe Kardashian.
It's embarrassing, man. All right, moving on to some other news. The TSA has very quietly adapted a new, more invasive pat-down, although they're not being specific or transparent about what that new pat-down system entails. But what we do know is that this new pat-down will be universal. Currently, there are 5 different types of pat-downs that the TSA does, and apparently that confuses some of the TSA agents because they have to decide which one they will conduct if someone seems suspicious or if the sensors go off. So now they've decided, we're just gonna do a universal enhanced pat-down. But again, we just don't know what it is. And the only reason why we know that this has happened is because Bloomberg found out due to TSA agents letting local police officials know, hey, individuals might complain about this, so just expect those complaints.
So I think there's a couple of different reasons why this might be happening. And so let's first of all break down what enhanced pat down could be. There's 2 different kinds of pat downs. There's the one that they do with the back of their hands, and then there's the one that they actually do with the front of their hands. And on the show before, we've described how Anna and I have gotten an enhanced pat down, not only with the back of their hands, I've gotten that many times, but the front of their hands. And they will actually touch your genitals with the front of their hands.
Yes.
So it's, you can call it a pat down, but I mean, it is incredibly invasive, and they actually go inside your pants to do it, and they, for crazy reasons, as Anna explained in another show, they claimed that she had a crotch anomaly, whatever the hell that means.
Went through the full body scanner, wearing skinny jeans. Okay, so very, very tight pants. And as I walked out, the TSA agent, a woman, stopped me and she's like, I'm gonna have to do an enhanced pat down. You have a crotch anomaly. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? And I looked at the scanner and my crotch was lit up in the image, right? So she wasn't lying to me, but then she asked if I wanted to go into a private room or if I wanted to just do it there. And I was in a rush, I was running late. So I was like, how bad could this possibly be? Let's just do it and get it over with here. And I don't know if it was intentional or if it was an accident, but yeah, she went in my pants, in my underwear, front of the hand, swiped in the front, swiped in the back, did it again. It was crazy and insanely invasive. So
to go inside the underwear is insane, let alone inside the pants. So is there some sort of new security threat? No, it doesn't appear so. It sounds like that they're getting, I don't know if it's internal criticism, external criticism about how they're choosing people. So they said instead of officers choosing who to search more extensively at random checkpoints, they'll now be doing this more thoroughly. And they said it, quote, lessens, this is according to the TSA, lessens the cognitive burden for our officers and reduces the possibility for confusion with passengers and employees as well.
Okay, so let's stop there for a second. So cognitive burden, think about that for a second. These are TSA agents. These are the people who are supposed to be keeping us safe. And their higher ups are concerned about their cognitive burdens. Oh my, are they gonna have to think too much? Are they gonna have to use some human judgment? Oh, their cognitive burdens. No, you're a TSA agent. You're supposed to be highly trained and efficient in figuring out how to keep people safe, how to do it sufficiently, I guess that's a better word. And so I don't understand why we're having a conversation about their poor cognitive burdens.
Yeah, I think that there are larger things at play here. I doubt that it's TSA agents who are going, oh my God, my cognitive burden is overwhelming. You've got to help me out with this. I think what's happening is that people are saying, hey, I'm getting grief for pulling over these kind of folks, right? And so